Pool Maintenance 101. So you just bought a pool and you don't know what you're doing and you want to know how to balance the water and take care of this pool. Here's what I tell everybody. Take a water sample down to your pool store. They're going to check it out. They need to know how many gallons are in the pool, so know the size of your pool. Maybe know the depth. Above ground pools are real easy. So you take the water sample down. You need to check the calcium once a year. That's it. Check the calcium once a year. You want to check your total alkalinity next. You want that between 80 and 120 ppm. Then you want to check your pH. The pH, alkalinity, total alkalinity, you want to check that like once a month, okay? So once a year on the calcium, once a month on the total alkalinity. pH and chlorine, if you're using chlorine, are going to be weekly. pH, you want around 7.6. And you want to always maintain some chlorine in the pool if you're using chlorine, because if you don't, you're going to get algae. But if you always maintain some well-balanced water with chlorine in it, you will never have algae. So you might put a little algicide in too. If you have a pool with a liner, I recommend getting some algicide with a real high copper base. Unless you have a lot of metal in your water, but that's another story. So there you have it. Calcium once a year, total alkalinity between 80 and 120 ppm once a month, pH 7.6. Try to keep 2 ppm or 1 ppm of chlorine in the water. You can do this by putting a chlorine puck in the skimmer as long as the skimmer is running and turning over. You don't want to leave chlorine in the basket if you're not going to be running the pool every day. It'll melt down and it'll actually damage the plumbing. So make sure if you're doing the chlorine tabs in the skimmer to keep eroding and keeping chlorine in the pool, that you run the pool every day. I recommend running pools 24 hours a day. Pools are a luxury. So like, you're going to either love your pool or hate your pool. If you run it all the time, it means it's always filtering. It's going to be the clearest it can be. It means the skimmer's always getting stuff off the top of the pool, so it ain't going to the bottom so that you have to vacuum. You know, as a bonus tip, keep an eye on that filter pressure. When the filter pressure starts to go up, that's telling you that the filter's getting dirty and it's time for it to get cleaned. You don't want to run a pool with a dirty filter. Puts pressure on the pump. Then you run into trouble. But yeah, a little bit of algicide. If you have a cement pool, you can use a polyquart type of algicide, but I'm a huge fan of copper-based algicide. When I close a pool, all I use is a copper-based algicide. I don't even use any chlorine or non-chlorine shock or anything like that. But that's Pool Maintenance 101. You know, you should be able to take care of your pool with about 15 minutes of work a week. That's vacuuming, that's checking chems, that's everything. So I'm not talking out of my hat here, because I used to maintain about 30 pools a week. I would do it in a day and a half to 2 days a week, depending on how much vacuuming there was. One pro tip I'll leave you with before we close this video is, if you open your pool early and you've got a lot of trees and you're dealing with pollen and all the seed that it drops, you better stay on top of it. You better stay on top of the chemicals. If you get rain or a lot of sweaty kids and dirty kids in the pool, you better be checking that chlorine, because dirt, bacteria, kids that don't necessarily wipe too good, that kind of stuff will knock out your chlorine like nothing. The sunshine will come down, your pool will turn green, and you'll hate your life. So keep the chlorine level up, keep the water balanced. It's very important. The calcium is very important for, if you don't keep your calcium between 200 and 400 parts per million, it'll pull calcium out of your liner. It'll pull it out of your cement wall. It'll pull it wherever it can get it from, and it'll damage your pool. So once a year is not asking too much to keep the calcium right. And here's the thing, don't over calcium, because that's the one chemical there that if you overdo it, you literally have to, there's no lowerer. Like with pH and alkalinity, you can raise it, you can lower it, you can do the same thing kind of with chlorine, but calcium, not so much. Calcium, you have to drain water out and refill it with lower calcium water. So, I know there's towns in Massachusetts like Chelmsford, comes out of the tap over 400 ppm. So what are you going to do? You got to buy water. All right. Again, Mike with MGK Pools here, trying to help out new pool owners, people looking for advice and tips quickly on the go, just to get things done. Like, share, and follow for more, and appreciate your interest. Take care.